The sky above the ruined city was a strange mix of orange and gray, heavy with smoke and dust. The air smelled of burning metal and scorched earth. Buildings that once reached the clouds now lay in shattered piles, and the streets were empty except for one figure moving silently between the shadows. That figure was a human, and though he was alone, he carried the quiet confidence of someone who had survived more than anyone could imagine. His name was Kyle. Once a soldier in a larger human force, he had been separated from his unit during an ambush days ago. Since then, he had been navigating the destroyed city alone, scavenging food and water, and avoiding patrols from the alien army that now occupied the planet. Every human alive knew about the Empress and her army. Their reputation as ruthless and powerful had spread like wildfire. Yet Kale moved as if fear did not exist, because he had learned long ago that hesitation could be worse than death. As he turned a corner, a glint of metal caught his eye. 3 alien warriors were moving cautiously down the street, scanning for any sign of life. They were taller than Kale and covered in armor that reflected the weak sunlight. Their eyes glowed faintly with an unnatural light, a warning to anyone who dared oppose them. Most humans would have hidden or run. Kale stayed in the shadows, watching, calculating, and waiting. When the first alien stepped onto the cracked pavement, Kale sprang into action. Using a combination of speed and precision, he leaped from a crumbling wall and struck the alien with a well-aimed blow, sending it sprawling. The second alien raised its weapon, but Kale rolled, avoiding the energy blast, and hurled a piece of debris with such force it struck the alien in the chest. The third warrior hesitated, sensing the human's unexpected skill. Kale was faster, smarter, and more unpredictable than they expected. He moved like water through the ruins, striking and disappearing, leaving the aliens confused and frustrated. The small fight ended quickly, with all 3 alien warriors incapacitated but alive. Kyle knew better than to kill unnecessarily. His goal was survival, not cruelty. He wiped sweat from his brow and looked around. From a nearby high tower, a figure watched silently, her presence commanding and undeniable. The figure was the alien Empress. Her armor shimmered with colors humans could not name, and her eyes were like polished gemstones, observing every movement of the lone human below. She had come to witness this fight herself, curious about the stories she had heard. Humans were known for their stubbornness, but rarely for courage that could rival her soldiers. Kyle did not know he had an audience, and yet he had already earned her attention. Suddenly, more alien soldiers appeared at the far end of the street. Kyle counted at least 10 this time, their weapons primed and ready. He crouched behind a broken wall, taking a deep breath. Every instinct told him this could be the end. Yet he smiled faintly. He had faced worse odds before, and he had survived. The battle began with a sudden burst. Kyle darted from cover to cover, using the ruins to his advantage. He set traps along the street, small but effective. Alien soldiers, larger and stronger, found themselves stumbling into debris, hitting each other as they tried to advance. Kale used precise strikes to target their weak points, and every time an alien fell, the others hesitated, uncertain how a single human could fight so well. The Empress observed with growing fascination. This human was not just surviving, he was challenging her soldiers in ways no human should. There was an intelligence to his movements, a combination of strategy and courage that even her generals had not predicted. She signaled silently to her aides, instructing them not to interfere. She wanted to see the human's full potential, to understand what made him stand out among his kind. Kale noticed the unusual silence behind him, but could not identify the source. The alien soldiers around him were relentless, their energy weapons firing in bursts, but Kale adapted. He rolled under a sudden blast, grabbed a heavy piece of metal from the debris, and used it to knock another soldier off balance. His movements were precise, economical, and deadly without being cruel. Despite his skill, Kyle was aware of his limits. He could not fight them forever. He had to think, to plan his next move carefully. Using the ruins as cover, he led the soldiers into a narrow alley where their numbers became a disadvantage. One by one, he used their own momentum against them, sending them crashing into walls or each other. The sound of metal and armor colliding echoed through the empty city streets, a symphony of chaos controlled by a single human. Hours seemed to pass in minutes. The alien army had underestimated the human spirit, and Kale embodied it fully. Sweat dripped down his face, his muscles burned. Yet he pressed on. Each move was calculated, every strike precise. The alien soldiers began to retreat, realizing they were being outsmarted by someone they had thought weak. The Empress's eyes narrowed, her curiosity deepening. She had witnessed thousands of battles across countless worlds, yet this human fascinated her. There was something raw, something pure about his courage. He fought not for glory or power, but because he refused to give up. That quality, rare among any species, was impossible to ignore. As the last of the alien soldiers staggered back, Kale paused to catch his breath. His chest heaved, his arms ached, yet a spark of pride lit his eyes. He had survived against overwhelming odds, proving that even one human could make a difference. He did not know the Empress had observed every move, silently impressed and quietly reassessing her assumptions about humanity. But Kale's fight was far from over. From the far end of the street, he noticed movement. Dozens more alien soldiers, larger, stronger, and faster than before. He had faced difficult battles, but never like this. His mind raced as he tried to find a strategy, a way to survive this new wave. The ruins offered him opportunities, but this time, it would not be simple. The Empress leaned forward slightly, intrigued. She wanted to see how far this human could go. Would he rise above the challenge, or would he fall? She had seen fear in countless eyes, but in Kale she saw determination, a rare and beautiful trait. Her generals whispered among themselves, shocked that one human could hold his ground so fiercely. Kale set his stance, muscles tense, ready for the next attack. He knew that surrender was not an option. His mind raced, calculating every possibility. He moved with a fluidity born of desperation and skill, ready to face whatever came next. The Empress watched, her expression unreadable, knowing that the outcome of this fight could change her understanding of humanity forever. As the first of the new soldiers advanced, Kyle smiled faintly. He had faced impossible odds before, and he had survived. This was no different. One human alone could not be defeated, not if he fought with courage, wit, and the relentless will to survive. The street was silent for a heartbeat. Then the battle resumed. The sun had dipped lower behind the ruined skyline, casting long shadows across the shattered streets. Smoke still curled from the remains of burned buildings, and the wind carried the acrid scent of dust and metal. Kyle stood in the middle of the street, muscles tense, eyes scanning the approaching alien soldiers. He knew this wave was stronger, faster, and more organized than the first. There was no room for error. The alien soldiers advanced in formation, their energy weapons glowing with a deadly light. Kyle assessed them quickly, calculating distances, angles, and timing. He needed to use the terrain to his advantage. Broken walls, fallen pillars, and rubble became his allies. He moved silently, slipping between cover, disappearing and reappearing like a shadow. Every step was deliberate, every strike precise. As the first soldier stepped into his trap, Kyle sprang into action. A hidden panel of rubble gave way beneath the alien's feet, sending it tumbling into a pit he had prepared. Another rushed him, swinging a glowing staff with lethal force, but Kale ducked under the strike and rammed his elbow into the alien's torso. The creature staggered, surprised by the human's speed and strength. The Empress watched from her vantage point atop a ruined tower, her eyes sharp and unwavering. She had seen countless battles, yet this human never stopped surprising her. She had expected fear, hesitation, even panic, but Kale moved with focus and clarity that seemed almost unnatural. His courage was raw and uncompromising. She leaned forward slightly, signaling her aides to hold back. She wanted to see how far he could push himself. Kale darted between rubble, using narrow alleys to limit the number of attackers who could reach him at once. He triggered a series of traps, carefully designed to take advantage of the alien soldiers' size and rigidity. They fell into pits, tripped over debris, and slammed into walls. Each mistake they made was a victory for him, and with every success, his confidence grew. Despite his skill, Kale could feel exhaustion creeping in. His arms ached, his chest burned, and his legs threatened to buckle under the strain. He paused for only a heartbeat, wiping sweat from his brow, before pressing forward. Survival demanded no rest. Every human on this planet relied on him, even if they did not know it yet. The alien soldiers were becoming more cautious. They realized that brute strength would not win this fight. Kale's unpredictability and quick thinking kept them off balance. For the first time, doubt crept into their ranks. The human, whom they had assumed weak, was proving more formidable than they could have imagined. From her tower, the Empress observed the hesitation in her army. She had always valued strength, strategy, and discipline, yet here was a human who embodied all three in ways she had never expected. She felt a spark of respect, rare for her, almost foreign. Perhaps humans were not as fragile as her empire had been told. Perhaps there was more to them than she had assumed. Kyle pressed on, moving toward a central plaza where the aliens were converging. He used his knowledge of the city's layout to his advantage, leading them into narrow passages and bottlenecks. Each move was calculated, forcing the aliens to fight on his terms. One by one, they fell, stunned and frustrated by the humans' clever tactics. As the battle raged, a sudden explosion rocked the plaza. Kale had set a hidden charge beneath a pile of rubble, collapsing it onto a group of advancing soldiers. The force threw them off balance, giving him a crucial moment to strike. He moved like lightning, disabling the stunned soldiers with swift, precise attacks. The Empress's eyes widened slightly. She had never seen such resourcefulness and bravery concentrated in a single human. Her generals murmured among themselves, shocked and uncertain. One human alone had held off an entire platoon. It was unprecedented. Kyle felt the tide turning in his favor, yet he remained vigilant. He knew that the Empress herself could intervene at any moment. Her presence was a reminder that this fight was not only against soldiers, but also against the expectations of an entire empire. He could not afford mistakes. The remaining aliens regrouped, forming a defensive circle around him. Kyle knew he needed to act quickly. He analyzed the formation, noting weak points in their coordination. With a deep breath, he charged, using speed and momentum to break the circle. His movements were a blur of calculated strikes and evasive maneuvers. The aliens were strong, but Kale's agility and intelligence kept him one step ahead. Suddenly, the Empress descended from her tower, moving toward the battlefield with a small contingent of elite warriors. Her presence alone radiated authority and power. Kyle did not falter. He could sense her attention, the way she measured his skill, evaluating him in real time. Yet he did not fight for recognition. He fought for survival, for humanity, for the spark of hope that refused to die. The Empress signaled her aides to observe quietly. She wanted to see how far this human could push himself, whether he could face her directly without flinching. Kale's movements were precise, efficient, and fearless. He faced down the elite warriors without hesitation, striking when openings appeared and retreating when necessary. Every action was a testament to human ingenuity and resilience. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. The battlefield was a chaotic dance of movement, energy blasts, and clashing metal. Kael's stamina was tested, yet his resolve remained unbroken. He had survived impossible odds before, and he would survive now. The alien soldiers, realizing the futility of their attacks, began to retreat slowly. The Empress stepped forward, her expression one of controlled curiosity. She regarded Kael with a mixture of respect and intrigue. Few humans had ever impressed her, yet here was one who had not only survived, but had bested her soldiers with skill and courage. She nodded slightly, a rare gesture of acknowledgement. Kael, noticing her approach, did not falter. He lowered his weapon slightly, not in fear, but in recognition that this was a moment unlike any other. The Empress's presence carried weight, yet he stood tall, showing no hesitation. His chest heaved, arms trembling slightly from exertion, but his eyes burned with determination. The alien generals whispered among themselves, astonished by what they had witnessed. One human, alone, had changed the course of the battle. The Empress spoke, her voice calm yet commanding. "You are unlike any human I have ever seen. Your courage and skill are remarkable." Kael met her gaze, sensing no malice in her tone. Only respect. He nodded slightly, acknowledging her words without surrender. "I fight for my people," he said simply, "for every human who cannot fight for themselves." The Empress considered his words carefully. She had seen many species boast of their power, yet few could back it up with action and heart. Kael's bravery was undeniable, his intelligence unmatched. She felt a rare admiration for the human spirit, recognizing in him the qualities her army had underestimated for so long. As the alien army withdrew, Kael remained vigilant, watching their retreat. The streets were quiet now, filled with the echoes of battle and the lingering scent of smoke. He knew this victory was only the beginning. Humans were often dismissed as weak, fragile, or insignificant, yet here he had proven that even one human could stand against an empire. The Empress lingered a moment longer, her eyes fixed on him. She had come expecting to witness an easy victory, yet she had found something extraordinary instead. Her mind raced with possibilities, wondering how far this human could go and what his actions meant for the future of her empire. Kael lowered his weapon fully, exhausted but unbroken. The city lay in ruins around him, yet he felt a spark of hope within. He had survived, and more importantly, he had shown that humanity's courage could defy expectations. Even an empire as vast and powerful as the alien one could not ignore the strength of a single human heart. With a final glance toward the Empress, Kael began moving through the city again, seeking shelter, water, and a way to help those who remained. He had won the battle, but the war was far from over. Yet one thing was certain: the galaxy would never underestimate humans again. The Empress watched him disappear into the ruins, her expression unreadable but thoughtful. This human had changed something in her perception, a truth that could not be ignored. One human alone had stood against her army, and in doing so, had stunned not only her soldiers, but the very foundation of what she believed about humanity. The wind swept through the empty streets, carrying dust and echoes of battle. Kael moved forward, weary but determined. He was one human, alone, yet his actions had left a mark that would be remembered. In a galaxy where strength was measured by numbers and power, he had proven that courage, intelligence, and heart could make even one human unstoppable. And somewhere above, the alien Empress knew that this encounter was only the beginning.